Hey guys, back from being sick. I wouldn't say that I was approaching death, but that was no fun. Hope you guys are staying away from this crud, whatever's going around. I just want to address a really, in my opinion, simple topic today. The goal of this channel being to not only, do some basic teaching about the realities of Christian life in this exceedingly fallen world that we're in right now, but also to address a lot of the misinformation, misconceptions, improper teaching that's been going on for, well, since time immemorial, let's be honest. It just seems to be coming to a head now, mainly because the tribulation's about to start, and Antichrist and his father Satan want to do any and everything that they can to make sure that those that are not choosing to do the heavy work of digging through the Bible like they should, like the Bereans, are as confused as possible when this all goes down, because his whole goal is to maximize the great apostasy in every way possible. So I've addressed genetic lineage of Antichrist. I've addressed a lot of what the Great Deception is going to look like, and a lot of the ways in which the current trends of the modern church are, it's like they're walking into a trap. I think this is not necessarily one of the most imperative facts, but it fits within the scheme of the timeline of the tribulation. So just like everything else in the Bible that we're supposed to know, this is important and should be addressed. So the timing of the two witnesses and their ministry is, I think, cut and dry, very simple. Between Revelation and Daniel, it's, in my opinion, crystal clear when it is and how long it is. But for some, there is still some confusion, so I figured I would clear that up as best I'm able here within this short period of time. So if we started Revelation 11, which gives the majority of the information about the two witnesses, 1 and 2 says that Gentiles will trample the holy city for 42 months. 42 months is exactly half of a 7-year period when you take into consideration that timeline broken down into 30-day lunar months, according to the original Hebrew calendar, which is what the Bible bases most of its time readouts on, if you will. So anytime it's referencing months and years, it's doing so based upon that original calendar. Daniel 7:25, saints are handed over to Antichrist for a time times time and a half. Time, 1 year, times 2 years, half a time, half year, I misspoke. That is 3.5 years total. That is directly describing the time of the Great Tribulation when we're hunted. Daniel 9:27, the prince of the people which is to come, Antichrist, makes a 7-year treaty and breaks it in the middle of the 3.5 years at the outset of the Great Tribulation. So that's something that happens right at the beginning of the Great Tribulation itself. Daniel 12:7, the angel tells Daniel there will be a time, times, and half a time before the Great Tribulation ends, and the power, basically the temple is restored back to its original order by Christ himself, it turns out. Revelation 12:6, the woman Israel is protected for 1,260 days, the entire Great Tribulation, time, times, and half a time, once again, in verse 12:14. Revelation 13:5, Antichrist is allowed to rule for 42 months, also equaling 1,260 days, also equaling time, times, and half a time. So all of these point to a 3.5-year period. So in Revelation 11:7, it gets a little bit more specific throughout Revelation 11. So in 11:7, the two witnesses are killed. In 11:9, they're said to be dead for 3.5 days, and this is a direct foreshadowing of the 3.5 years, the Great Tribulation. Also note that this is one of the few times where half days are mentioned, and it's no coincidence, specifically, again, because it can only be referencing the time of the Great Tribulation that is about to befall the earth. 11:11, after 3.5 days, they resuscitate and ascend, likely foreshadowing Christ's return. 11:14 says that the second woe, the sixth trumpet is passing, the seventh trumpet is coming, is near. That is the Great Tribulation proper, the entire 3.5 years. I've addressed this in previous videos. I'll try and remember to put it in the links here at some point. But basically, the way the trumpets work is they start basically halfway through the first half of the tribulation, and each trumpet equals the same number of months as their numerical designation. So first trumpet 1 month, second trumpet 2 months, 3, 4, 5, and 6. The sixth being 6 months, and then the seventh is actually 7 times over the sixth trumpet, so 42 months total, which again points to that 1,260 days, times and half a time, so on. So again, repeated theme over and over and over again. In Revelation 11:3, they prophesy in Jerusalem for 1,260 days, 3.5 years, the entire first half of the tribulation, and that's the whole breakdown point. There's no point at which these 1,260 days are not referring to either the first half or the second half of the tribulation anywhere in the Bible. Those that assume that somehow they'll be prophesying in the second half of the tribulation, they're going against the fact that Antichrist is literally handed over the saints for the entirety of the 3.5 years. And as we can see from Revelation 11, the beast rises up out of the abyss and kills them, right? And they're not allowed to be killed up until that point, and anybody who harms them is basically devoured by fire. And they're allowed to likely be the ones, just the same way that Moses was the one who enacted the plagues or announced the plagues of Egypt. It only stands to reason that he'll be the one announcing the plagues that befall the earth that are represented by the 6 trumpets. So that goes completely counter to scripture to say that they will be prophesying in the second half. We also have to take into consideration this entire experiment here on earth with free will beings and their choice for or against God has everything to do with free will. And at no point is God allowing Satan the ability to just run roughshod over the earth and not have a countervailing force, right? The 144,000, though not directly so, are intricately linked to the 2 witnesses in that, well, first off, they're called the first fruits of the harvest of the earth, right? And Christ being the first fruits was the first to be resurrected. It only stands to reason that the 144,000 are the first group of Christians that are killed during the Great Tribulation after the woman flees into the mountains and is there for 1,260 days. I'm not saying that they're there for 1,260 days before the 144,000 are killed, but after they flee, he goes off in a rage after her other children, as it says. Well, that can only mean the 2 witnesses and the 144,000. So the 144,000 and the 2 witnesses will be fully active the entire time Antichrist and his grand deception, great delusion, strong delusion, whatever you want to call it, however you want to translate Paul's words, speaking about how there will be a great mass of falling away of weak and former Christians who decide to follow Antichrist instead of the true Christ. But all the while this is going on, God is lovingly and mercifully giving us the witness of the 2 witnesses and the 144,000, prophesying, probably doing miracles, going worldwide to the lost diaspora of believing Jews in the world. And I'm sure, just the same way anybody who would listen during Christ's ministry, whether they were Jew or Samaritan, they would hear the gospel too. So just because their ministry is guided towards the lost Jews of the world does not mean that it's 100% for them and that they're going to be ignoring any Gentile that would have any question on the way. In fact, there's a very good chance, you guys, just the same way when the 11 and the 72 were sent out, they'll be told to go to a home, look for basically room and board, and don't bring anything with you and rely only upon what they give you. There will be a chance that perhaps somebody who's watching this may very well put these guys up for a short period of time while they do their thing for that first 3.5 years in whatever corner of the world that they're sent. And know this, that Babylon, United States, is notoriously in the Bible known for a place that not only was used to punish Israel, the ancient one, but also during the time of Daniel, for example, to keep the remnant alive. And there is a very large Jewish contingent, I believe almost, if not a larger population of Jews live in the United States, I could be wrong on this, but I know it's very large, than they do in Israel proper. So there's a very good chance we're going to see those guys doing their thing here. And it would also stand to reason too that the harlot would get a very big finger waved in her eye in the form of prophets of God preaching directly against their evil and their nonsense. And who's to say that that won't stop the great deception and the great apostasy from becoming greater than its actual potential just because of their presence and the the potential, and I say this potentially because a great apostasy is going to happen either way, but it's all in God's plan for him to know whose hearts would soften when they saw actual prophets doing what they do. So it will be all mercy on God's part, but that all ends during the Great Tribulation, and that's the one time, that 3.5 years, where everything is handed over to Antichrist, and it does not stand to reason that the two witnesses and the 144,000 will be around. I hope that kind of clears it up for you guys. I have a feeling that the majority of you who are watching this already understand that they'll be active only during that time, and that the only time that they could actually be killed is the same time that 7-year treaty is broken, right in the middle of the tribulation. And because of all the references to 1260 repeatedly throughout Scripture, only point to there being basically a beginning, a middle, and an end, and everything in between basically is filled in either by the trumpets, by the bowl judgments, or unfortunately for those of us who make it into the Great Tribulation, by the persecutions that occur for the vast majority of the time up until the last year, when the bowls start and really rock the earth before Christ returns and Babylon is destroyed and so on. I've made videos about all this, by the way, in great detail. I've covered pretty much the majority of Revelation. That was the early days of this channel last year, which I think some of you have watched, but I think the majority of you who would watch these newer videos have not seen. And it is, they are rather not easy to listen to because they are so informationally heavy, but we cannot assume that what we've been told about Revelation is correct because of so much error that's going around. And it would behoove you guys, and if you get a chance, to check them out, because again, I basically made this whole channel as a roadmap as to what's coming, and you shouldn't be caught unaware. Anyhow, I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope I'm still a little bit out of it, and I hope my my speech and my ability to actually put words into reasonable sentences that can be understood has come back to me, because I've had a few days of pretty severe brain fog. But I appreciate you watching. I'm really glad that you guys are still here. It's strange how, even though it was only a couple of folks, the channel still grew. That's great. But like, share, comment, subscribe, do the YouTube thing. Tell your friends about it. If you have any questions, put it in the comments. I am still going to be addressing the questions that have been put to me in the comments. It's just I got knocked down pretty hard. But anyway, I pray you guys are well. I hope you're staying nice and healthy and away from people like me who are sick as a dog, and that you're growing in the Lord and you're continuing on, and we will talk to you soon.